If you don't know what a hardcore Nuzlocke run is, briefly put, if a Pokemon faints, they're considered dead and I can't use them. I can only catch the first Pokemon I encounter in each area or each route. I can't use items in battle. I have to change everything to set mode, and I can't level past the next gym leader's strongest Pokemon. So without further ado, I've decided to try and beat Pokemon Fire Red using only flying type Pokemon. And here's how that went. Professor Oak asks if I'm a boy or a girl. I say boy, and you know what? I just call myself that. And since my rival is trying to eliminate my flying type airbenders, we call him Sozin, because it makes sense. I go downstairs to start my journey, and my mom says it's okay, because she saw on the TV that little children go out to fight monsters when they turn 10 years old, and she's fine with that for some reason. I try to get started and kill some monsters, but Professor Oak tells me that it's dangerous to go alone. So naturally, he gives me a fire-breathing dragon, who I name Aang. And though his airbending skills aren't great, I believe that Aang can save the world. And almost immediately, Sozin comes out of nowhere and tries to take out my Pokemon before he can learn to airbend. And apparently Professor Oak is simply standing by refereeing this match, telling us how to fight each other's Pokemon, which seems a little bit dark to me, but whatever. After a couple of scratches and tackles, I'm not really at risk of losing, so I take him out and I've beaten Sozin for the first time. I make my way to Viridian City, where a guy is telling me that Professor Oak has a package, which apparently he's simply too lazy to go one town away and give it to him, and Oak is too lazy to walk one town up and take it. I get Pokeballs, find my first real starter, and that is Pidgey, who I catch, and I name him, well, I try to name him Sokka, but I accidentally hit B and call him Sock. But you know what? I think Sokka would be okay with that. Now that I have a real airbender, Aang has to go in the box. I can't use him for quite a while. I'm making my way to Viridian Forest and I find this old man who tries to teach me how to catch a Pokemon. I literally just caught a Pidgey. I think I can catch anything at this point. And I prove that by catching a Caterpie almost immediately, and I name him Zuko. Now, unfortunately, I have a couple of really close calls with Zuko and Pidgey, so I run to the Pokemon Center probably 500,000 times. Because, for example, this Pidgey just gets 2 critical hit tackles right after another, and so I almost die. But thankfully, I train my Pokemon so much that Zuko evolves into a Metapod and then a Butterfree, and no one actually dies. Now, to train up Zuko a little bit more, I'm in Viridian Forest basically killing his kin, which is a little bit bad because he's massacring all of his brothers and sisters. And eventually he gets to level 13 and learns Poison Powder. Now, I thought that this is when he learned Sleep Powder, so I get a little bit disanimated, and I don't want to keep training because it's getting boring, so I go to fight Brock, even though my Pokemon are severely under-leveled. My plan here simply is to use as many sand attacks as I possibly can with Sock. The reason for this is that Geodude doesn't know any rock-type moves, so I'm not really at risk to dying unless he gets critical hits, so enough sand attacks will let my Zuko come in and use a ton of Hardens. Unfortunately, as you can see here, Geodude continually hits through the sand attacks and does quite a bit of damage to Zuko before the Onix even comes out. And that sucks, but there's nothing I can do about that. So Onix comes out, I hit him with a Confusion, and then he hits me with a pretty strong Rock Tomb, which almost kills me. So things are looking really bad. He misses the second Rock Tomb, and then for some reason he hits me with a really weak Tackle, and last he tries a Bind, which doesn't do anything, so I actually kill Brock with 1 HP left on Zuko. I'm not going to lie, that was really rough. I should not have won that battle, and in the future I need to be much more prepared. I make my way to Mount Moon, where I find this guy who sells me a Magikarp for $500, who I name Appa. I go into Mount Moon, and fairly quickly I find a Zubat, because they're everywhere. I catch him, and I name him Boomy. But I quickly find out that Boomy kind of sucks. This is a critical hit leech life against a Weedle, 5 levels lower, to Viridian City because I never fought Sozin. Now, I am vastly overleveled, so this is obviously going to be a piece of cake. We both start off with our Pidgeys, and after a couple of gusts, I take out his. And you can see in his Pidgey's eyes an immense hatred towards Sock. Just like that, an intense rivalry began. I switched to Boomy to try to give him some experience, but he sucks, so I switch back to Sock, who takes out the Squirtle in just a couple of gusts. And for the second time, I've beaten my rival. On my way back to Mount Moon, while I'm trying to train Boomy, I find a Spearow, who I send out Sock, and I accidentally kill it with a quick attack. Making my way through Mount Moon, Sock evolves into a Pidgeotto, And then I find this scientist trying to keep the fossil to himself. So to teach him that sharing is caring, I kick his butt and then take one of the fossils that I will never use. You better share next time, bruh, or I'll come back. And then I'm out of Mount Moon. I find another Spearow, and this time, thankfully, I don't kill him. So I catch him and I name him Momo. Now before we go any further, if you've watched to this point, hopefully you liked the video. So I would ask that you subscribe, leave a like, comment, and maybe even share it. That would be awesome. Okay, back to the important stuff. It's time to fight Sozin one more time. I start with Appa this time, because I want him to get some experience, but I can quickly see that he has no chance against this Pidgeotto. So I switch to Sock and take him out with a couple of gusts. Not really that difficult. Next, he sends out his Rattata, who gets me with a quick attack, but I also take him out with a couple of gusts. Squirtle is starting to get a little bit stronger, but he hasn't yet evolved for some reason, so I can also take him out in just a couple of gusts. He does get me down pretty low though, so I need to switch to Appa to try and finish him off. I don't know why I then switched to Zuko, I don't know what was happening there in my mind, but he sends out Abra, who I then switched back to Appa so he can get some more experience, and actually takes him out with some critical hit tackles. So good for him. Here, Sozin gives me the Fame Checker, which is an item that I forgot existed because it is basically useless. Get through Nugget Bridge easily enough, but there's a hiker that you can't avoid. So I start with Zuko, who puts the Onix to sleep, hits him with a few confusions, but then the Onix wakes up and takes me out with a single rock throw. So that's rough. I lost my first Pokemon. I sent out Boomy because he has Bite now, so it's a special attacking move in this generation, who takes him out in a few bites and thankfully doesn't get rock thrown. But losing Zuko kind of sucks. I then find Bill, who has somehow fused himself with a Clefairy. I help him out, and in response he gives me vacation tickets to the SSN. So that's pretty nice. I train up my Pokemon so that both Appa and Momo evolve in quick succession. And now my team is ready to face Misty. So I start with Boomy, she starts with Staryu. I hit him with a wing attack, as he does very little to me, and then I kill him with another wing attack. Then Misty sends out Starmie, so I switch to Appa. Appa takes a Water Pulse that does literally nothing, and then I start just using Bite. At one point, after Misty gets a bit too low, she heals and prolongs the inevitable, but Staryu really can't do anything to me. So a couple bites later, and Misty is down. Just like that, we have the second badge. Now, I make my way through this house that has very clearly been destroyed. I find a so-called innocent bystander on the other side who attacks me, and then Boomy evolves into a Golbat. He's actually getting a lot better than he used to be. This Rocket member then gives me a TM, which obviously belongs to the people inside the house, but I take it and run away. They don't need it. I then go to the daycare man and I drop off Aang, because I can't use him for quite a while. As I continue my journey, I end up finding this bug catcher with a Butterfree, and that brings back a lot of feels. But I have to kill him. Then I make it to the SSN. He lets me on because I have a ticket, and the very first thing I do is, naturally, look through the trash. Here's a life hack for you. The next time you're on a cruise vacation, look through the kitchen trash, because apparently you find some good stuff. On my way to the captain's cabin, I run into Sozin, who is rubbing in my face that he has now learned French in the time we've been apart. So now he's got to go down. We start with our Pidgeotos, obviously. Sock comes out, gets a critical hit gust, and kills him with a quick attack. He then sends out Raticate, who I start with the gust, and he eventually gets a really powerful Hyper Fang, but I kill him with a quick attack. Next comes Kadabra. I obviously have to change, so I bring out Momo, who hits him with a Pursuit as I get hit by Confusion, and then a last Pursuit finishes him off. Next, he brings out Wartortle, so I switch out for Appa, because Wartortle can't really do a ton to me. I hit him with Bite time and time again until eventually he dies. Then I finally go into the captain's cabin, who is sick. I feel like if you're a seasick captain, you need a better career. I give him a weird back rub, and he wants to show me his secret technique. I say no, and then as soon as I leave the ship, it goes away. So basically, they were waiting for a 10-year-old to give their captain a back rub, because that's not weird at all. I make my way to Lieutenant Surge and work on his garbage puzzle. You see what I did there? After I do that, I can actually fight him. Now, this is obviously going to be a difficult fight because he's electric, and I'm flying. He starts with Voltorb, so I come out with a Momo, who gets a really clutch 5-hit Fury attack. So that was a pretty good start. Brings out Pikachu, and I try the same thing. I get staticked, but I heal with a Cherry Berry, because I was prepared. The Fury attack doesn't quite kill him, but I feel like I can kill him pretty easily next turn. Unfortunately, static hits once again, so he is now faster than me. I do hit him with one last Fury attack that takes out the Pikachu. Last we have Raichu. So I try for another Fury attack just to see how much it does, and it actually does a pretty good amount. He hits me with a Shockwave that leaves me with a Sliver, so I really should have changed earlier. But now I swap to Sock, who takes out Raichu with a Quick Attack. And the gym that I was fearing quite a bit was actually not too bad. As I made my way to get Flash through Diglett Tunnel, I find a Dugtrio on the first try, which is frustrating because I can never find Dugtrio when I actually want him. After making my way through Rock Tunnel with minimal problems, I can now fight Erika, who I decide to take out with Boomy. Unfortunately, I get paralyzed pretty quickly, but it doesn't really matter because her Pokemon are basically all grass and poison, so Boomy can take out pretty much everybody. After I kill Victory Bell, she brings out Tangela, who I'm not concerned about whatsoever. The most frustrating part about this fight is how long Constrict takes and the fact that I occasionally am getting paralyzed. But after a little while, I take out Tangela too. Last, she has a Vileplume, who tries to hit me with Acid and does very little. Again, the most frustrating part about this entire match was that I keep getting paralyzed. I could have used a berry to heal that at the beginning, but I didn't think it was necessary because even with that, I beat her really easy. She then gives me the TM for Mega Drain, which is actually going to be really helpful later on. It's around this point that I catch a Doduo, who is the first girl of the run, so I name her Katara. I've been waiting on this name for quite a while, but here it is. I get some tea from an old lady, because she doesn't want me to spend my money on soda pop, and then I find a guard who takes the tea from me and says he's going to give it to all of his guard friends. I didn't think I had that much tea, but okay. I break into someone's secret retreat and they give me Fly, which is obviously pretty useful for my flying type Pokemon. I find out that Boomy cannot fly, but Katara, who has no wings, can. And so I teach Katara Fly because she obviously wants to do it. I then go back to the daycare man so I can get Aang out, who has grown 15 levels, which is pretty great. So I take him out because I want to train him up to be a Charizard. But I immediately change my mind because I don't want to deal with that leveling right now, so I put him back in. I break into the Rocket's secret hideout and try to read their master plans, but I can't make any sense of it. Then Giovanni gets really upset and he tries to take me out. He starts with Onix and I start with Appa. I don't have any water moves yet, but Dragon Rage and Bite both do a pretty good amount because again, Bite is a special attacking move. He then sends out his Rhyhorn, same type of deal. I do Dragon Rage a couple of times and take him out. I level up and Appa tries to learn Leer at level 30. A little bit late on that. Now Kangaskhan is actually pretty tough. A Dragon Rage would be a 3-hit KO, but he hits me for a really strong Mega Punch. So I switch to Boomy, who now starts to hit him with wing attacks. He misses a Mega Punch and I take him out. So I beat Giovanni and then have to face my rival in the Pokemon Tower. So our Pidgeotos go against each other once again, and Sock, as always, is quite a bit more powerful, so I take him out. Next, he sends out his Growlithe. So I switch to Appa, because Growlithe can do basically nothing to me. That Ember did 3 damage. I hit him with a Dragon Rage, he retaliates with another Ember, and then I Bite, and he's dead. Next we fight Execute, who Bite is super effective against and almost kills him, but he flinches, so I can kill him the second try. Then we have Kadabra, who also Bite almost kills and is super effective. He gets off a Kinesis, which doesn't matter. My Bite misses, but the third one hits him. Last we have Wartortle. But unlike last time, now Wartortle is really easy because of Dragon Rage. After the first Dragon Rage, I decide to try to kill him with Bite. I don't know why, because it's just a waste of time and it just doesn't work. So I go back to Dragon Rage and I beat my rival once again. At this point, Katara is evolving. She still doesn't have any wings, but at least now she has 3 heads. Just for kicks and giggles here, I decide to face off against the Black Belt Master in Saffron City. You know, the guy who used to be a gym leader. But because he has Hitmonlee, I can take him out in a couple of wing attacks from Boomy, and Hitmonchan, it's the same deal. They can do almost nothing to me because I quad resist them. With that, I have badge number 4.5. I get Aang from the daycare man, and I raise him in the Pokemon Tower against Ghastlies and the occasional Haunter. He evolves into Charmeleon and then eventually into Charizard. The reason I'm doing this is because I want him to have as many special attack EVs as he possibly can, and this is the best place for that in Fire Red. I don't really want to go into EVs because you probably know about them already. At the same time, Sock evolves into his final form, Pidgeot. Next, we go to the Safari Zone, but not to catch Pokemon. Instead, I want these gold teeth lying on the floor. And in basically the same screen, I go into this house and talk to the lady who will give me Silph. I find it a little bit weird that these two HMs are in effectively the same spot, but it is what it is. Fighting against some more rockets, Boomy pretends like he's going to evolve, but then doesn't because I don't have the national dex. I continue in this area and I find my rival, who is in the middle of a hostage situation and he's just kind of hanging around, not helping. Now you'll notice that for once my Pidgeot is actually lower than his. All of my Pokemon are underleveled, and that's simply because I was wrong about the level cap for Sabrina. I thought it was 38, it's actually 43. Anyway, I kill the Pidgeot pretty easily, Appa comes out against the Growlithe once again, but now Growlithe gets revenge because he burns me. I still kill him with a single Silph, but I am now burned, and that kind of sucks. Against Execute, one bite doesn't kill him, and then he Leech Seeds me. So at this point, I'm thinking that I probably need to switch in Appa on the next turn because I don't want him to die from Alakazam. So that's exactly what I do. I bring out Katara, who has the second highest attack of all of my Pokemon. Alakazam goes for a Future Sight, which I don't really care about, and I get a critical hit, so that was sweet. Next we get Blastoise. So I fly so that I avoid the Future Sight and then come down and hit Blastoise, but don't really do a ton, and he does a fair amount to me. One more Tri-Attack gets him close to dying, a Water Gun gets me really close, but then I kill him and I beat my rival. And now we face off one more time against Giovanni, who threatens me with a world of pain. I'm 10 years old. This Mafia guy's got some problems. So Appa starts off, again I'm underleveled, and I hit him with a Strength, which poisons me, so we're off to a great start. A second Strength takes him out. Then we have a Rhyhorn, who I'm not really scared of because I have Silph. One hit KO. Kangaskhan again comes out, and I hit him with a Strength, but it doesn't do a ton. Once again, his Mega Punch does a lot, so I bring out Aang instead. And in his debut fight, we can see that his Flamethrower almost kills the Kangaskhan, but he does it in a second shot. Last but not least, he has a Nidoqueen. I go for a Dig because it's super effective, but even with a critical hit, it doesn't do as much as I had hoped. So instead, I switch to Flamethrower, which almost kills her. She has like 1 HP left, and then one more Flamethrower finishes her off. I beat Giovanni for the second and surely the last time. This old man is so rich he can give me anything, and he gives me a ball that I will never use. But at least he has a working PC in his office, so that's cool. After getting to the correct level cap, I'm ready to fight Sabrina. I start with Appa. She starts with Kadabra, who dies in a single Strength. Next she brings out Mr. Mime, who also dies to a single Strength. Venomoth will not, but I go for it anyway as he fails to confuse me, and then I take him out with one more Strength. Last comes out Alakazam, who is faster than me, but should die to a single Strength. He doesn't, so that must have been a low roll. She heals, I do another Strength, and this time it actually does kill him. Thankfully, Appa has really high special defense, so he wasn't in any danger. Next we fight Koga. His Coughings are a little bit scary because they can explode, but Aang just takes him out with a single Flamethrower. Now we bring out Muck, who does not die to a Flamethrower, he goes for a Minimize. But I'm not really worried because one more Flamethrower takes him out. We have a second Coughing, who is the exact same as the first, so he also goes down to a single Flamethrower. And last we have Wheezing, who can't explode on me, so the fact that he doesn't die is okay. Sludge does a fair amount and poisons me, and then he heals his Wheezing to kind of stall a little bit, but this time my Flamethrower burns him, so it kills him at the end of the turn anyway. And now we have badge 6.5. For the last Pokemon of the run, I go to the museum in Pewter City. But I don't go through the main entrance like a noob, I sneak around the side where I find this scientist who I guess can just give me a fossilized Pokemon, and there's nothing wrong with that. He gives me the old Amber, who I resurrect to become an Aerodactyl. He's also a boy and I name him Iroh. And with that, I have to decide who's on my team, because for the first time I have 7 Pokemon. I bring Iroh onto the team and drop Momo into the box. Momo's been good, but Iroh is going to be a lot more useful. Unfortunately, he has Pressure and not Rockhead, but that's okay, we can make it work. For some reason, Blaine can lock his door, so I have to go through this Pokemansion to get a secret key, and then answer these very difficult questions, like there are 9 certified badges, or that Tombstoney is the name of a Pokemon move. Sounds ridiculous. After blowing through those stupid questions, I now fight Blaine. So he leads with Growlithe, I lead with Iroh because I want to get him experience. I take out Growlithe in one hit, and I'm intimidated, so I swap to Appa. That way I can take out the Arcanine, but first I go for a Rain Dance, and Fire Blast does nothing. So So I switch back to Iroh just for fun, and he hits him with an Ancient Power, which doesn't quite kill him, but that's okay, because I'm not taking much damage. Next, he sends out Ponyta, who should go down to a single Ancient Power, which he does. Last, he has Rapidash, who also dies to a single Ancient Power, and I get the Omniboost, so that's a pretty good first gym for Iroh. We now have 7 gyms, and we're almost at the end. Bill has been waiting for me outside Blaine's gym, and he tries to kidnap me to go to an island. I say no, don't go to random islands with strangers. It's not a good idea. Now somehow, the obvious mob boss is actually the 8th gym leader, so I have to take him out before I can go on to the Elite Four. Rhyhorn poses no problem. The second Rhyhorn that's slightly stronger still poses no problem. I really don't understand why trainers have the exact same Pokemon twice. Then we have a Dugtrio. I decide to just spend a bit of time Dragon Dancing. This is just to ensure that I kill the last few Pokemon on his team in one shot. He goes down to a single Surf, didn't really have any trouble there. And then Nidoqueen goes down to a single Strength, thanks to the Dragon Dances. The last Pokemon is a Nidoking, who also goes down to a Strength. It was critical, but it didn't have to be. And just like that, we have all of the badges. But before I can fight the Elite Four, Sozin appears out of nowhere one last time to try and take me out. Surprise, surprise, we start with our Pidgeots. I go for a Feather Dance, and he does the same. So now my Wing Attack does almost nothing, but he gets a crit and does half damage. So I really should have changed already. I learned my mistake and I changed to Appa, who also gets hit with a critical hit. But I taught him Thunderbolt, so he does a pretty good amount there. One more Strength takes out the Pidgeot. We have a Rhyhorn come out, but I literally just killed 2 of these, so he's no problem. And as always, since the Growlithe can't do anything to me, I decide to go for a Dragon Dance. He goes for an Agility, which I don't really care if he's faster than me. I Surf, I take him out right away. An Execute comes out. I don't have Bite anymore, but that's okay. I have Strength, which does a little bit more than half health. He tries to Solar Beam, but I take him out after getting paralyzed. Alakazam comes out, who disables my Strength right before I can use it. He starts to set up Calm Minds, which is concerning, so I switch to Appa as it continues to do that, and I hit him with a pretty strong Ancient Power. One more hit from a Wing Attack takes him out. Last, he has his Blastoise, who is increasingly becoming a thorn in my side. His defenses are just pretty strong, and I don't have any electric Pokemon. My Gyarados does no Thunderbolt, but it didn't really do a ton there, and I continue to flinch. So at this point I realize I need to try something else. I switch to Katara, who again has pretty high attack, go for a Drill Peck, and here I switch to Boomy because he has higher special defense, and the Water Gun and Rain Dance can do quite a bit more. So I hit him with a Confuse Ray to try and, give him a little bit of chip damage. I hit him with a really weak Wing Attack, and he almost kills me with a Water Gun. Thankfully he didn't, so I can finish him off with one last Wing Attack. That was not a very clean run, but at least my guys didn't die. And now we get to a point that makes absolutely no sense financially speaking. The Pokemon League has hired and apparently pays these guards to stand in their spot and just check the badges of Pokemon trainers who walk by. I feel like you could employ one badge checker at the very entrance to Victory Road. Save yourself a lot of money, it just makes a heck of a lot more sense. But I guess this is a work program or something, so that's what they've done. After going through the very tedious badge checkers, I get to Victory Road, and then fairly simply get through the end. After that, I do some last minute training. And here I'm using Thief on Wild Fearow because they have a 5% chance to give me a Sharp Beak. I eventually get one, but I didn't actually record it, so I apologize for that, but I got one here, and it'll be useful at the Elite Four. The reason I spent time trying to get a Sharp Beak is because we don't really have any good held items. I could get leftovers right where the Snorlax used to be, but to get that you need to have an item finder which requires 30 Pokemon. I only have 19, so there's no feasible way I can get the item finder with the restrictions I have imposed. Now, those of you who are more familiar with the Pokemon in Kanto have probably recognized the Pokemon I haven't yet talked about. Specifically, the 3 legendary birds, the Dragonite line, and Scyther. Now, the legendary birds I'm not going to use because they're legendary. They make things a little bit too easy. Dragonite is a pseudo-legendary, so I also won't use him. Scyther I'm actually a big fan of, but I don't want to go through the hassle of getting him in the Safari Zone, and I don't actually see myself using him for the Elite Four, so I'm not going to use him anyway. So I'm very limited in what held items I can actually use. I'm doing the best I can with what I have, but ultimately I am ready for the Elite Four, and here is my team. They're all at level 60 to match Lance's Dragonite. So here we go. 4 is Lorelei, and she is really concerning to me considering she has purely ice type Pokemon, and my flying type are weak to that. So I do a somewhat cheap strategy where I bring out Appa to use Substitute and then Dragon Dance. The Substitute is here because Dugong could kill me in 5 moves, assuming no critical hits, but Substitute can make that last quite a bit longer. So my plan is to get off a couple of Dragon Dances and then start returning and killing everybody. After a couple of Dragon Dances, I can take out the Dugong with 1 return. And then I decide to set up another Substitute against Cloyster, just in case, as well as another Dragon Dance. At this point, Cloyster is basically just spamming Protect, trying to save itself from my return. And it works for a couple of times, but then Cloyster goes down. Now that I know I can kill Cloyster in 1 shot, who has the highest defense out of everyone on the team, I think it's a pretty clean sweep. Take out the Slowbro, I take out the Jinx, and last but not least, she has Lapras, who I also hit with 1 return and take it out. Since Dragon Dance strats aren't really that intellectually stimulating, I promise I won't do it again. I just had to do it for Lorelei. Next we have Bruno, and my goal is to have Boomy take out his entire team. He starts off strong by taking out the Onix in 1 Giga Drain, and then Hitmonchan I think should die with 1 Wing Attack, but he does not. So apparently my math was incorrect. I did give Boomy the Sharp Beak here just in case, but that's okay, we still got it. Machamp certainly will not die in 1 hit, but he wastes time to do a Scary Face, he then heals a little bit, does a very weak Cross Chop, and then I take him out. We then have the Hitmonlee, who again should die in 1 Wing Attack, which he does. Last but not least we have Onix, who is the exact same as the previous Onix, a little bit stronger, but still dies to 1 Giga Drain. So just like that, I beat Bruno. And now it's time for Agatha and her ghost Pokemon, because she's basically already a ghost right now, so she has a really good connection to them. For her ghost Pokemon, Boomy knows Shadow Ball. Gengar doesn't die in 1 hit, he uses a double team and then heals, and I miss my second Shadow Ball, which is unfortunate. And then I hit myself Confusion, and then he hits me with a Shadow Punch, but then I take him out with a second Shadow Ball. She sends out Haunter, who should die in 1 hit, and she does. That's not too bad. Next we have the second Gengar, who puts me to sleep. But I was prepared for that because I have a Chesto Berry. I hit him with a Shadow Ball, who then heals with a Citrus Berry, goes for another Hypnosis, but misses, so I take him out. Then we have Golbat, who is just like Boomy. So I start with a Confuse Ray, just because he hits himself in Confusion, and hits himself in Confusion again, and then goes down fairly easily. Last is her Arbok, who I also confuse, just for fun. He hits me with an Iron Tail, which actually does a good amount, so I swap to Aang to tank an Iron Tail like it's nothing, and then Aang just takes him out with a couple of Flamethrowers. The Sludge Bomb actually does a lot of damage, so I wasn't anticipating quite that much, but it's okay, because I beat her without losing a single Pokemon. Once again, Boomy taunts me trying to evolve, but can't do it. Then we fight against Lance. He starts with his Gyarados, so I start with Appa. Our Gyarados-I, however, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, they fight against each other. I start with a Substitute and then start using Thunderbolt, which doesn't kill him in 1 hit, unfortunately, and that means he's obviously going to heal. So I go for another Substitute because he broke the first one, and then a couple quick Thunderbolts after that, I take him out. We're starting off pretty solid here. After his Gyarados, he's going to send out his Aerodactyl. So here I decide to stay in because I still have a Substitute, hit him with an Ice Beam, which doesn't do much, so I swap to my Aerodactyl, who gets hit by an Ancient Power, which is pretty rough. But then I take out his with Iroh's Ancient Power and get the Omni Boost. So at this point my entire plan has changed. Now I want to leave Iroh in and just see how much he can do. So I take out the first Dragonair with a double edge, I take out the second Dragonair with a double edge, and I have 1 HP left. For the Dragonite, I'm debating swapping my Pokemon, but I don't think I can do that because he can one-shot a lot of them. So instead, I decide to go for an Ancient Power and hope that I can take him out with that. It gets pretty close, but it doesn't actually kill him. And then obviously he takes out my 1 last HP. You did good, Iroh. Then I send in Aang, who takes out Dragonite with 1 Dragon Claw. Now that was my plan from the beginning, to use Aang and Dragon Claw, but Iroh kind of went his own way. And you know what? I'm not upset about that. He did a good job. So now we have 1 death and we're ready to fight my rival, who could have guessed that he would be the champion? As always, we start with our Pidgeots. This time, I've taught Sock Fly because it's slightly more powerful than Wing Attack, even though it can miss. Things don't look too great, but eventually I take him out. And then he sends out Rhydon. So I don't want to change to anyone else because Rock Tomb could do a lot. So I do a Feather Dance to weaken it, And then I do another feather dance just because. And then he misses a takedown, so I decide that's enough. I swap to Appa, who takes out Rhydon with a single Surf. He then swaps in his Alakazam, who hits me with a really strong critical hit Psychic. I hit him with Return, which is also critical hit, so you know what? I think that's fair. Next he comes out with Executor, so I switch to Aang to Flamethrower this guy. Unfortunately, he threw up a light screen, but I get a critical hit, so it doesn't matter anyway. For Blastoise, I feel like I have to sacrifice Sawk because he has very little HP and I can't send in someone to take a full Hydro Pump. I go for Katara, who can Toxic him as he wastes a turn to Rain Dance. Unfortunately, this means that his water moves are now quite a bit more powerful. So Appa takes a bit from the Hydro Pump, and I'm hoping that I can do a return to do a good amount of damage to Blastoise. But he takes out Appa with another Hydro Pump. We go back to Katara, who this time comes in and actually hits him with a Drill Peck. This leaves him with a sliver of HP, but then the Toxic finishes him off. So last we have Arcanine, who gets off an Intimidate, but I don't really care. I Toxic, and then he hits me with a very weak Flamethrower because of the Rain Dance, but the second Flamethrower is much stronger and it takes me out. So we send out Aang, because Aang now has Earthquake. He hits me with an extreme speed, which does very little. I take him out with a critical hit Earthquake. And just like that, for the last time, I beat my rival. I don't know why he's so surprised that I beat him again, because he has never defeated me in a battle, but you know, whatever. At this point, Oak comes in, tells his grandson that he never loved him, that I was always his favorite, and he takes me into this room to put up my Hall of Fame Pokemon. So, this is the team that I had to beat the Elite Four. We managed to beat a flying type hardcore Nuzlocke of Fire Red, and until the end, we'd only lost one Pokemon. We actually ended up losing 5 in total, but you know what? For my first hardcore Nuzlocke, I think that's okay. If you enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe, leave a like, and maybe even share it with someone else who might enjoy it. I plan to do another hardcore Nuzlocke kind of like this in Soul Silver in the coming weeks, whenever I can get it done, so stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for watching.